Ever have that nagging feeling like the biggest battle you're fighting is actually with yourself?
Oh, absolutely. You're pushing forward, trying so hard, but it feels like something invisible keeps pulling you back.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving deep into today, this whole idea of self-sabotage. We're going to be exploring it through the lens of Brianna Wiest's book, The Mountain Is You.
It's such a relatable experience, isn't it? That gap between what you aspire to and where you actually are, even with all the effort.
Hmm.
And what Weiss really clarifies is that this isn't about being weak or, fundamentally flawed. It's often more like a coping mechanism.
A coping mechanism.
Yeah, something rooted in unconscious needs, associations we've formed that we might not even be aware of.
Okay, so if you've ever felt stuck, like you're putting in the work, but that goal just stays out of reach,
Mm-hmm.
this deep dive is definitely for you.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission really is to understand the roots of this self-sabotage, see how it shows up in different ways, and find those paths towards what Weiss calls self-mastery.
We'll sort of walk through her main ideas, chapter by chapter almost, to get a handle on this inner landscape.
And it all kicks off with that powerful title for the first part, The Mountain Is You.
Right. That's the starting point.
Yeah,
The biggest hurdle isn't usually out there.
it's in here.
Exactly. Weiss says that tension, that resistance you feel when trying to close the gap between where you are and where you want to be, that's often self-sabotage at play.
But it's not about self-hate.
Right.
We're just lacking willpower.
No, not usually. That's the key insight. It's serving some kind of unconscious need. And to really get to the bottom of it, she talks about needing some deep psychological excavation.
Like digging deep.
Yeah, digging down to find out what hidden need is actually driving these seemingly counterproductive behaviors.
She tells that story about Carl Jung, right? Fainting in school.
Yes. It seemed physical, but he later realized it was his unconscious mind wanting to escape a situation he hated. A neurosis, he called it, acting as a substitute for, well, legitimate suffering he couldn't face directly.
Wow. It makes you think, what weird patterns in our lives might be serving some hidden purpose?
And trying to fix just the surface stuff. Wiest says it's like ripping off a Band-Aid when the wound underneath hasn't healed. You just keep hitting the same problem.
So it often comes down to these negative associations we've picked up, things we unconsciously link together.
Exactly. Our inner narrative, our self-concept, shaped by parents, peers, past experiences, and then confirmation bias kicks in.
Meaning we look for evidence that proves our existing beliefs right, even the unhelpful ones.
Precisely. So if you believe deep down that something good is actually bad or dangerous for you, you might subconsciously avoid it.
Like the money example she gives. If you grew up hearing rich people are awful,
Then achieving financial success might feel internally threatening, linked to being a bad person. So you resist it, even while consciously wanting it.
so the work is challenging those old ideas, building new, more empowering connections.
Yes. Seeing that, good people can have money and do good things with it, it's about rewriting those subconscious links.
And what about just the discomfort of change itself? Stepping outside the familiar zone.
That's huge, too. That discomfort can feel like a warning sign, like, this is wrong, go back. But often, it's just the normal feeling of psychological adjustment. It doesn't mean you're on the wrong path.
Which connects to that upper limit idea from Gay Hendricks. Like,
Yeah.
we have a thermostat for happiness.
Yeah, exactly. A level of well-being we're used to. Go beyond that, and unconsciously, we might do something to bring ourselves back down to what feels familiar.
Even if familiar isn't actually happy.
Right. We're wired for familiarity. So releasing that old familiar version of ourselves, the one these patterns were built for, is crucial for real change. That clinging is self-sabotage.
Okay, that sets the stage. But then the next part is titled, There's No Such Thing as Self-Sabotage, which sounds contradictory.
It does, initially, but what she means is that these behaviors aren't some separate malicious force. They're just habits.
Habits, like any other habit.
Pretty much. Some habits move us forward skills. Others hold us back, what we call self-sabotage. But they're learned patterns. And understanding why the impulse exists is key, rather than just trying to fight it.
So it's not usually intentional self-harm, more like misdirected self-protection.
Often, yes. Like eating junk food when stressed, it's seeking comfort, not punishment. Or procrastinating on something important, it might be driven by fear of failure, trying to protect you from potential pain.
Got it. So self-sabotage is like having two conflicting desires pulling you apart.
Exactly. One conscious, the goal you want. one unconscious, a hidden need the sabotaging behavior is actually trying to meet.
And we can get attached to having problems. That sounds strange.
It's counterintuitive, but yeah, if a problem fulfills a need, like maybe being the struggling artist gets you attention, or staying small avoids criticism, you might unconsciously resist solving it.
Can you give some examples of those hidden needs?
Sure, like maybe succeeding feels like it will alienate people, or finding love feels too vulnerable. Playing small avoids scrutiny. Procrastination offers temporary comfort, or avoids the fear of not doing well.
So the outward struggle is just a symptom.
Often, yes. A symptom of a deeper unmet need. That's why just fighting the resistance doesn't work well. It just increases the internal conflict.
So instead of fighting,
Get really clear on what you want and why. Identify those limiting unconscious beliefs. And then step into the work when you feel inspired, not forcing it constantly against that internal wall.
and hitting that upper limit we talked about.
Wiest says that's actually a good sign. It means you're growing. The solution isn't to retreat, but to slowly acclimate to the new normal. Let that higher level of well-being become familiar.
What about perfectionism? That feels like striving for excellence, not sabotage.
But Wiest reframes it. Is it really about correctness? Or is it about fear? Fear of showing up, fear of trying, fear of being seen as imperfect, fear of failing.
So it's avoidance disguised as high standards.
Often, the solution. Just start. Do the work. Allow it to be imperfect initially. Mastery comes through repetition and learning, not waiting for perfection.
And making excuses. We all do that sometimes.
Sure, but Wiest is quite direct here. Life looks at outcomes, not intentions or justifications. Excuses often just shield us from the uncomfortable feelings needed for growth.
So track your outcomes. Do one productive thing daily.
That's her advice. Focus on results. And another pattern she mentions is judging others.
How does judging others sabotage us?
If you judge, say, wealthy people harshly, you create an internal rule. Being wealthy is bad. Then, subconsciously, you might block your own path to wealth to avoid becoming bad yourself.
Wow. So the solution is non-judgment, compassion.
Practicing non-assumption, cultivating compassion for others, that fosters self-compassion and opens you up to receiving good things too.
Okay, what about pride? Can that hold us back?
Too much pride, yeah. It stops us from admitting flaws, asking for help, learning. Honesty and vulnerability often earn more respect than a facade of perfection.
And guilt about success. Feeling bad when things go well.
Especially moving from scarcity to abundance. Reframing success as a tool for positive impact, not just status, can help ease that.
Fear of failing seems like a big one.
Two kinds, she notes. Fear of the initial failure when trying something new, and the chronic worry of losing what you have. The key is to just try, even if you might not be great at first. Effort matters more than initial perfection.
Then there's downplaying success, ignoring health, being constantly busy, spending time with the wrong people.
All potential forms of self-sabotage, each stemming from underlying fears, avoidance tactics, or outdated needs. For each, she suggests ways forward defining health for yourself, simplifying, building supportive circles, focusing on what you do want.
This all leads to needing to understand what's really going on underneath, identifying our subconscious commitments.
Exactly. This is where we face the emotions we've been avoiding, because when you stop the sabotaging behavior, those repressed feelings tend to, well, bubble up.
So it might feel worse before it feels better.
Potentially, yes. The real block, Wiest argues, is often the fear of feeling those uncomfortable emotions. That's what keeps us stuck, even when we know what we should do.
Like feeling resistance, that urge to just stop or turn away.
Instead of just pushing through, she urges us to explore it. What does it feel like? Where is it in the body? What might be underneath?
And other feelings like anger, sadness, inadequacy.
Make space for them. Observe them without judgment. Recognize their connection to the patterns you want to change. She suggests things like writing letters to your younger self, creating mantras, giving yourself permission to fully feel.
A key point she makes is about action versus feeling, right?
Yes. Crucial. We often think we can't act because we don't feel like it. But feelings are wired for comfort, for the familiar. They aren't always aligned with growth or what's best long term. We have to learn to act sometimes despite our feelings.
And those negative emotions, anger, sadness, guilt.
They can be reframed. They're signals. Anger might show a boundary was crossed. Sadness points to loss. Guilt indicates a value violation. They're internal guidance systems telling us something needs attention, something needs to change. Ignoring the whispers makes them shout.
And our basic needs, connection, validation, security, they're valid.
Absolutely, not signs of weakness. And Wiest links specific sabotaging behaviors to potential subconscious messages.
Like going back to a bad relationship might point to needing to heal childhood patterns.
Or feeling unhappy despite external success might mean you're neglecting your inner life. Pushing people away could stem from a fear of vulnerability linked to a deep desire for connection.
Bad eating habits might signal a need for rest. Not promoting your work could mean you lack clarity or judge yourself.
Exactly. These pairings encourage us to look deeper, beyond the surface behavior to the underlying need or message.
Okay, so once we start noticing these things, how do we learn to listen better in the moment?
That's the next step, learning to listen again. It's about developing emotional intelligence, understanding and interpreting feelings effectively, not just reacting or trying to fix everything.
Trusting your gut.
Shocks about that. Acknowledging the brain-body connection. But she makes a critical distinction.
Which is?
Gut instinct is about the present, that feeling you get right now. Projections about the future, especially fearful ones, aren't usually intuition. They're often fear-based projections.
So feeling bad doesn't automatically mean a decision is wrong.
Right. Good decisions often lead to good feelings eventually, but the decision itself might feel uncomfortable initially. Feelings aren't the compass. The mind is for reasoning. Feelings are more like the weather report.
And intuition feels different from fear.
Generally, yes. True instinct is often subtle, calm, present-focused. Fear projections tend to feel panicky, urgent, future-focused. Asking what is true right now can help differentiate.
She also mentions intuitive nudges versus intrusive thoughts.
Briefly, yeah. Helpful insights versus those repetitive negative thoughts. And interestingly, she points out the brain can resist positive change.
Why would it do that?
Because change disrupts the comfort zone, the familiar. Even good change is still change. It requires adaptation.
So change happens in small steps, microshifts.
That's her emphasis. Lasting change usually isn't a sudden lightning bolt. It's small, consistent actions adding up over time, becoming new habits, like reducing phone checks by one, drinking half a glass more water, tiny shifts.
And the idea that our minds are anti-fragile.
Meaning challenges can actually make us stronger, more creative. Adversity is part of the human story. But that familiarity bias is still strong. The brain likes what it knows, even if it's toxic.
Which can lead to adjustment shock, feeling stressed by good things.
Yes, because it's unfamiliar territory. It disrupts the status quo.
Wiest warns against psychic thinking, too.
Assuming you know what others think or what will happen based purely on your feelings. It's detached from reality, fuels anxiety. Same with obsessing over the worst-case scenario, it keeps you in defense mode.
And worrying.
Comes from caring, she says, but it's an ineffective defense mechanism. Doesn't solve problems, often makes things feel worse. Understanding why you worry is more helpful than just trying to stop.
Okay, so understanding our patterns, learning to listen, then comes releasing the past.
Acknowledging that self-reinvention is natural, and suffering often comes from resisting that flow, holding on to what's gone or no longer fits.
But you can't just force yourself to let go, can you?
No, she says trying to force it is often counterproductive, like telling yourself not to think about something.
So what's the alternative?
Focus on building the new. Create a present and future life that's so engaging, so compelling, that the past naturally loses its grip. It fades into the background as you invest energy in what's emerging.
And accept yourself now, warts and all.
Yes. Don't wait until you're perfect to heal or be happy. Show up as you are. Find comfort in the present moment, even with its imperfections. Imperfection is part of growth, in nature and in us.
She has that technique of imagining your healed older self, guiding your younger self through past pain.
Yeah, superimposing a new narrative. It's about validating the past experience while bringing your current wisdom and compassion to it. Acknowledging the younger self's feelings is key.
And the idea that what leaves your path might be clearing it.
Trusting that process. What's not meant for you will eventually fall away. Resisting that creates conflict. Letting go allows space for what is meant for you.
She also addresses healing from emotional trauma more specifically.
Recognizing it's stored physically. Healing involves restoring a sense of safety through relationships, finances, backup plans, whatever creates security now.
And changing how you meditate.
Not just striving for calm, but meditating to simply feel and observe whatever arises without judgment. And physical release movement, tears, sweat.
So healing isn't like fixing a broken bone, it's ongoing.
Yes, it's integration. Honest self-assessment, feeling difficult emotions, learning, growing, refusing to tolerate mediocrity or mistreatment anymore. It's about building the right life now.
It's removing the obstacles,
Right.
the fear, the limiting beliefs, so your best self can naturally emerge.
Exactly. And healing isn't about going back to who you were before the pain. It's about becoming more resilient, more empowered because of what you've navigated. Healed people take action.
And letting go of needing external approval, especially proving people wrong.
That often comes from our own unmet expectations, she suggests. True freedom is self-acceptance. Life isn't a neat before and after. It's continuous shedding and becoming.
Okay, so after releasing the past, we actively start building a new future.
Right. Shifting focus to creation. Wiest suggests connecting with your highest potential future self.
How does that work? Like a visualization?
Yeah. Meditate, get calm, invite that future self in. Notice how they look, act, live. Ask them for advice on current challenges. It's like reverse engineering your growth.
And imagining them handing you keys.
Symbolic keys to that future life, yeah. Or imagining giving aspects of your present life to your past self. It builds affirmation, a sense of possibility.
And asking, what would my most powerful self do today?
Using that as a daily guide. Embodying those traits now. Acting as the CEO of your life. Which also means being aware of your weaknesses.
Knowing your limits is strength.
Yes, self-awareness allows focused growth. And another trait she mentions is being willing to be disliked.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is. But seeking universal approval holds you back from authentic action. True power involves acting on your values, even if it draws judgment.
She also emphasizes self-validation, accepting your own feelings.
Knowing your feelings without needing external agreement, that builds inner strength. And adopting principles.
Principles, not just inspiration.
Right. Principles are fundamental truths of cause and effect, like living below your means for financial stability, or not relying on others for self-worth in relationships. They provide structure.
Inspiration fades, but principles guide long-term action.
Exactly. Principles lead to gradual but inevitable positive outcomes. And finding your true purpose. Wiest reframes that too.
Not some grand calling.
More about how you live daily, how you respond to adversity, treat others, contribute in small ways. That is your purpose unfolding.
Which brings us finally to from self-sabotage to self-mastery.
Which isn't about being superhuman, but simply the natural result of understanding how you both hinder and help yourself.
And controlling emotions doesn't mean suppressing them.
No, she uses a Buddhist concept. It's like watching clouds pass. Acknowledge thoughts and feelings, but regulate your reaction to them. Don't get swept away. Suppression is unhealthy.
Mental strength is fluidity, reason.
Being able to navigate life effectively without getting tripped up by your own internal stuff, not constant positivity, but resilience.
She mentions Camus's invincible summer within.
Yeah, that core of inner peace that's always there, beneath the surface weather of life. It's something to return to, not something you have to frantically create, like letting the sediment settle in a lake.
Peace arises when we stop stirring things up with resistance and judgment.
Maybe aiming for inner peace is a more stable goal than chasing fleeting happiness. External things rarely bring lasting contentment anyway.
We often return to our baseline, don't we?
Exactly. True happiness comes from being at peace with the present. So why do we lose touch with that peace? Often, it's learned coping mechanisms from childhood, adopting others' beliefs, disconnecting us from our own inner knowing.
Remembering thoughts aren't always facts.
Crucial. There's suggestions, possibilities, not necessarily reality. And often the fear of feeling our own feelings, especially unresolved stuff held by our inner child, keeps us from that peace.
Detaching from worry. Remembering feelings aren't always facts.
Peace is the underlying constant. Fear is limited, specific. Mental strength is a practice.
What does that practice involve?
Having a plan gives a sense of control. Humility. Stop assuming everyone's watching you. Asking for help. Strength, not weakness. Not trying to be psychic about the future. Taking responsibility for your outcomes.
Responding, not just reacting. Learning from the past to fix the future. Seeing challenges as feedback.
All part of it. And truly enjoying life. Comes back to allowing feelings to flow, being present, nurturing relationships, managing thoughts, and even scheduling time to just do nothing.
So wrapping this up, the core message seems to be that self-sabotage isn't some deep flaw, but often a misguided attempt at protection, driven by unconscious needs.
Exactly. And self-mastery isn't about eliminating parts of yourself, but understanding and integrating them. It's a journey of awareness and conscious choice.
And you, listening, You absolutely have the power to change these patterns. Awareness is the first huge step. Choosing new perspectives, new actions, that's where your power lies.
You can reshape that inner landscape.
So let's take just a moment now for reflection. Think about one specific area in your life. Maybe it's work, maybe your relationship, maybe your health, where you suspect self-sabotage might be subtly at play. Just pick one area.
And for the next minute or so, just gently explore that. Don't judge, just be curious. What might be the underlying fear there? Is there a hidden need that this pattern, even though it's frustrating, might be trying to meet?
Perhaps you notice a specific negative thought or belief that comes up around this topic.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not good enough for that promotion, or real connection is too risky. Just notice it.
Or maybe you feel a physical sensation when you think about taking a step forward in that area, a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach. Where do you feel the resistance?
What might that feeling, that thought, that pattern be trying to protect you from, even if it's in an unhelpful way? What's the deeper message your subconscious might be trying to send?
Just sit with that awareness for a moment. No need to fix anything right now. Just acknowledging what might be going on underneath the surface is a powerful act.
Remember, this understanding is the starting point. Even this small reflection, this gentle curiosity about your inner world, is a step towards profound change and building a life that feels more aligned, more authentic, and ultimately more fulfilling.